Stress, rumors, even violence. Virus fear goes viral. Even as illnesses and deaths from the new virus increase, fear is advancing like a tsunami, and not just around the Chinese city of Wuhan, the center of the outbreak that has declared a global health emergency. In this February 14, 2020 photo, a woman wearing a face mask walks on an almost empty street at the Chinatown in Incheon, South Korea. Even as cases and deaths from the new virus mount, fear is advancing like a tsunami, and not just in the areas surrounding the city of Wuhan, the center of the outbreak that has declared a global health emergency. A restaurant owner in the Chinatown says visitors have dropped by 90%. Tokyo. You might have heard that the fear of the new virus from China is spreading faster than the actual virus. From earnest officials trying to calm a building panic, from your spouse, from the know-it-all who rattles off the many, much more likely ways you're going to die: smoking, car accidents, the flu. None of it seems to matter. As the number of cases rises, more than 76,000 and counting, fear is advancing like a tsunami, and not just in the areas surrounding the city of Wuhan, the site of the vast majority of coronavirus infections. Subway cars in Tokyo and Seoul look more like a hospital wards, with armies of masked commuters shooting dirty looks at the slightest cough or sneeze. A restaurant owner in South Korea, Chinatown, says visitors have dropped by 90%. You've probably got a better chance of winning the lottery than buying a face mask in parts of Asia. Conferences and events that have been disrupted, from Beijing to Barcelona to Boston, quarrels in Japan, riots in Ukraine, rumors that toilet paper and napkins could be used as masks emptied East Asian store shelves of paper goods. Fear is a strong emotion, and the prevailing fear over the new coronavirus drives people to do things irrationally without thinking straight, said Bernie Huang, 31, a high school teacher in Taipei, Taiwan, who resisted the city's now easing toilet paper buying spree. If you take a long view, panic has marched in lockstep with pandemic for as long as history has been recorded. The plague that devastated Athens in the 5th century BC, the Black Death that eradicated much of Europe in the 14th century, and more recently, AIDS, Ebola, SARS, MERS, swine and bird flu. Scientists, statisticians, and people well away from the line of fire may scoff, but the fear, which is spread by word of mouth and more rapidly through online posts, is real. Fear can do more harm than the virus, Singapore Prime Minister Lee Hsien-loong said in response to panic buying of toilet paper, canned food, and instant noodles after the government raised a risk alert over the new virus. It's perhaps most keenly felt in places where crowds gather: churches, shopping areas, schools. In the Philippines, nearly half of the pews were empty for recent Sunday masses in many churches. At a Protestant church in northern Seoul, officials switched entirely to online worship after it was found that a virus patient had attended services days before he tested positive. Oh my Lord. The huge Lotte department store in Seoul closed for several days for disinfection after it was found that a Chinese tourist with the virus visited. It reportedly lost about 20 billion won, which is about $16.9 million in revenue, based on figures by financial analysts. A mobile trade fair in Barcelona was canceled. PlayStation maker Sony pulled out of a video game conference in Boston over increasing concerns related to the virus. Organizers said the event will go on next week, but with enhanced cleaning. At Namdyemun, Seoul's largest traditional market, businesses saw huge drops in sales after an infected person was found to have visited the area last month. Wonder how many of those people that were there are going to be sick. Merchants say their businesses are dying, said Chung Young-bom, head of an association of thousands of merchants at Namdyeong. The South Korean Education Ministry recently issued an advisory to universities to postpone the March start of the upcoming semester because of worries that thousands of Chinese students will return to schools from abroad. South Korean President Moon Jae-in expressed worries that excessively bloated fear was hurting South Korea's economy by suppressing public consumption and leisure activities. The most eagerly awaited gathering in Asia, the upcoming Summer Olympics in Tokyo, has been beset by fear too. Although he later backtracked, Tokyo Olympic CEO Toshiro Muto said recently that he was seriously worried the virus could disrupt the Olympics and Paralympics. One thing I am noticing at the moment is fear is spreading quicker than the virus, and it is important we quell that fear, said Craig Spence, the spokesman for the International Paralympic Committee. In Japan, fear and virus have intersected, most visibly on a huge cruise ship in the port of Yokohama, where thousands of passengers and crew were quarantined for 2 weeks as hundreds of people on board tested positive for the virus. One quarantined passenger hung a banner that read, "No information, stressed, many bad rumors." The internet foments many of those rumors. It's just the truth that's getting out. In Malaysia, a social media rumor that mandarin oranges carry the virus caused some initial panic until health officials debunked it. When news broke that a journalist who reports on Japan's leader had contact with the infected driver and was in self-quarantine, a web edition of the Weekly Post tabloid magazine declared, "Coronavirus has sent shockwaves to the Prime Minister's office." Fear and possibly a dark sense of humor may also help explain some odd behavior. Images of people using orange peels as face masks, children in strollers wrapped in what looks like dry cleaning plastic. In Taiwan, people began stocking up on toilet paper and napkins after a rumor on the internet said they could be used as masks to stop the spread of viruses, said Yang Bo-ken, deputy director of the government's Industrial Development Bureau. Taiwan's Criminal Investigation Bureau recommended the prosecution of 3 women on allegations that they used the popular Line social media service to suggest using table napkins, sanitary napkins, and toilet paper as a mass substitute, a bureau spokesman said. The fear has also led to lawlessness. In Kobe, Japan, 6,000 surgical masks were reported stolen from a hospital. Several hundred residents fearing infection in Ukraine clashed for hours with police as they blocked a road to a building where more than 70 people evacuated from China because of the virus were to be quarantined. 2 passengers on a subway in Fukuoka, Japan, quarreled after a man not wearing a mask started coughing, prompting the man next to him to press an emergency alarm. Kyodo News reported. Fear is spreading among passengers. We plan to promote cough etiquette such as wearing facial masks, a city transport official told the news agency. In Hong Kong, where people queued up for essential goods outside shops, 3 people with knives allegedly robbed a delivery man outside a supermarket of a precious toilet rolls reportedly worth more than 1,000 Hong Kong dollars, which is equivalent to $128 in U.S. money. Governments have not always known how to handle the situation. All the planning and all the different departments, you would think that they would have been prepared for this. I know the United States has been doing drills for years now on all kinds of scenarios. 8 Samoan citizens were refused entry at the nation's airport and sent back to Fiji reportedly because they had transited through Singapore, which the government labels a high-risk country, according to the Samoa Observer. And when a Canadian team collapsed at a building in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, a medical team in hazmat suits arrived. The health ministry later said it was a precautionary measure and the team was virus-free. The story was written by AP journalist Kim Tong-young, Jung Yeok Kim, Young Jin Kim in Seoul, South Korea, Mara Yamaguchi in Tokyo, Ralph Jennings in Taipei, Taiwan, and Ellen Nang in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. They all contributed to this story. I have another story for you guys. All right, virus spreads in South Korea as thousands are screened. Man, they have the same kind of gear. It looks like they have better gear than what they have in China. They look like they actually have oxygen units directly into their suits. But the carrier for the patient there is the same as the ones I've seen in China. Seoul, South Korea. South Korea on Saturday reported a 6-fold jump in virus infections in 4 days to 346, most of them linked to a church and a hospital in and around the 4th largest city where health workers scrambled to screen more than 9,000 worshippers. There's concern that the death toll, currently at 2, could grow. Virus patients with signs of pneumonia and other serious conditions at the Cheongdo Hospital were transferred to other facilities, 17 of them critical. Vice Health Minister Kim Jang-lip told reporters. He said that the outbreaks had entered a serious new phase, but still expressed cautious optimism that it can be contained to the region surrounding Daegu, where the first case was reported on Tuesday. In some positive news, China said Saturday the daily count of the new virus cases there fell significantly to 397, with another 109 people dying of the disease, most of the epicenter of Hubei province. The new figures bring the total number of cases in mainland China to 76,288, with 2,345 deaths, as strict quarantine measures and travel bans continue to contain the disease that emerged in China in December and has since spread worldwide. The daily figure is down from 889 on Friday. One of the 142 new cases in South Korea, 131 from Daegu and nearby regions, which have emerged as the latest front in the widening global fight against COVID-19. By Saturday morning, the city of 2.5 million and nearby areas counted 283 cases, including the 2 fatalities in Cheongdo Hospital. The central government has declared the area as a special management zone, and it's channeling support to ease the shortage in hospital beds, medical personnel, and equipment. Although we are beginning to see some cases nationwide, infections are still sporadic outside of the special management zone of Daegu and North. I'm not even going to try. Province. Kim said during a briefing he called for the maintaining strong border controls to prevent infections from China and elsewhere from entering South Korea. Nationwide, the numbers told of a ballooning problem. There were 20 new cases reported Wednesday, 53 on Thursday, and 100 on Friday. Around 170 of those have been directly linked to a single house of worship, a Daegu branch of the Church of Jesus, where a woman in her 60s attended 2 services before testing positive for the virus. Officials are also investigating a possible link between churchgoers and the spike in infections at Qingdao Hospital, where 111 people have so far been infected, mostly patients at a mental illness ward. God bless their hearts. Health officials were screening some 9,300 church followers and said that 1,261 of them have exhibited coughing and other symptoms. Among them, 4 had traveled abroad in recent months, including 1 to China. Now, wait a minute. Recent months? Months? How long is this stuff infectious? Or contagious, I should say. Although that trip came in early January and was away from Hubei. But that's looking like it's taking months for it to show up. All 74 sites operated by the Shinqingjing Church have been closed, and worshippers have been told to instead watch services online for a sect whose leader claims to be an angel of Christ, but who is dismissed by many outsiders as a cult leader. And its teachings revolve largely around the book of Revelation, a chapter of the New Testament known mostly for apocalyptic foreshadowing. And it's not a chapter, it's a book. Health and city officials say the woman who first tested positive had contact with some 1,160 people, both at the church, a restaurant, and a hospital where she was treated for injuries from a car accident. See, people, how easy this can spread? You want to know why people are panicking? Why people are afraid to look sideways at you if you cough? Anxiety is also palpable in other parts of the country. In capital Seoul, the fear of the virus led many to avoid shops and restaurants and instead eat at home and order necessities online. Buses and subways were full of mask-clad commuters. Seoul City banned rallies in downtown area, but hundreds of anti-government protesters went on with a planned demonstration at Gangwon Boulevard on Saturday. Mayor Park Won-soo said those disobeying the ban could face a maximum fine of 3 million won, or 2,500 American dollars. The first 3 cases in the country's 600,000 member military also sprung up on separate bases Friday, bringing added concern. A sailor of Jeju Island and an army officer in North Chungcheong, province both tested positive. Both had made recent trips to Daegu, officials said. I think they should quarantine and lock the doors and bridges and tunnels to Daegu. A third infection was reported in an Air Force officer who is based in Daegu, but who had recently traveled to military headquarters in central South Korea, the defense military said, prompting the quarantine of 80 soldiers there. A U.S. Army garrison in Daegu restricted access and imposed self-quarantine for American troops. Among a dozen new cases in Japan was a middle school teacher in her 60s, prompting concern for the health of other teachers and students. In Makihara in Chiba, Prefecture southeast of Tokyo. Chiba Mayor Toshihito Kumagai said the school was closed and all teachers will be tested and students monitored. Why aren't they testing these students? These students went home to their families. Their families are going out to jobs and shopping. Oh my God, this is why it can't be contained. People are complete idiots. Excuse me, and God forgive me. Globally, more than 77,000 people have been infected in 29 countries and more than 2,300 have died. Italian authorities say a 78-year-old man died of the disease, and the number of people infected has more than quadrupled due to the emerging cluster of cases in the country's north. Many of the new cases represented the first infections in Italy acquired through secondary contagion and brought to the country's total 19. In the United States, 35 people have tested positive for the virus, including 18 who returned home from a quarantine cruise ship in Japan, and one new case reported Friday in California. That's a new case in California. The United Arab Emirates on Saturday said 2 more people, a Filipino and a Bangladeshi, were infected, bringing the country's toll to 11 cases. Saudi Arabia barred travel to Iran, said anyone coming from there can enter only after a 14-day quarantine. The decision directly impacts thousands of Iranians who travel to Mecca and Medina for Islamic pilgrimage, effectively barring them from the kingdom. Iran has reported 4 deaths for a total of 18 cases. This is getting out of hand. This is why don't be afraid to wear your mask. Don't be afraid to put your goggles on. Don't be afraid to wear your gloves. And I'm even purchasing a plastic shower cap to cover my hair, so that when I come home and I take off my clothes and hang them up in my back bathroom with my ozone machine, with my shoes and my mask, I can sanitize all of that overnight. I am not going to be wearing infected clothes around, and as soon as I get those clothes hung up, I'm going in the other bathroom and I'm taking a shower and washing myself from head to my toes. And I'm going to gargle and I'm going to blow my nose and I'm going to say my prayers because, oh my God, this is crazy, people. Please take proper precautions and don't be afraid to wear your mask. It's probably the best thing you can do at this point to try to continue to keep from getting this virus. People, I love you. I love you all so much. And God bless us, everyone.